Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Are you ready to live an inspired and empowered life? Hi, I'm Nanci Deutsch. And today we will be talking about Emotional Intelligence 101. Join us live on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on W4WN or talk4tv.com. Today, as I said, we're going to be talking about Emotional Intelligence 101. Learn the 3 principles of emotional intelligence and how emotional intelligence changes your life. And then discover the number 1 mistake that would keep you from a life you love. Ask your questions and make your comments in the chat room, and together, let's create a life you love. As I said, I'm Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive breakthrough expert. I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive skills to help you transform your life. Today, and every time I do the show, it's not a replacement for therapy or counseling. This is for educational purposes only. But learning emotional intelligence does change your life. It is key to living an inspired and empowered life. So let's jump right in. What is emotional intelligence? What is it? Emotional intelligence is the ability to process your feelings and in a healthy way rather than reacting in dysfunctional or destructive ways. And I was looking online because I really wanted to support all of you in learning more about emotional intelligence. And so I was Googling emotional intelligence, and I was looking at the different ways that people describe it, and I really liked this one. I feel like it's more comprehensive than some of the other things that I saw there, and I really want to share it with you. So this information is from the website thinkpsych.com. And that's spelled think and psych, PSYCH.com. Blog, the 5 components of emotional intelligence. So this person, and her name is Aria Palmer, was the one who wrote this blog. And the 5 components that she talked about, the first one is self-awareness. And self-awareness is all about, it's understanding one's emotions, thoughts, feelings, intentions. And when one is self-aware, they can then pinpoint what the feelings are and why. Now, I'm always talking about self-awareness because without self-awareness, and this is me talking, not the blog, without self-awareness, you cannot know you don't even have awareness that you said something or did something to hurt another person or even yourself. When you don't have self-awareness about your emotions, you end up just feeling and you're just clueless. So any of those people that just seem really clueless, or maybe they're really insensitive, and you're like, I don't understand. Why don't they understand what I get? It's because they're not self-aware, or they're not looking to be self-aware. And I really want to acknowledge you for tuning in. So whether you're tuning in live, or you're tuning in on the podcast, or watching this at a later time, no, I really want to acknowledge you for wanting to know more about emotional intelligence. And just the fact that you want to know more about it, you're on the right path. You're in the right place, because that's what it's all about. It's learning and growing. So even if you make the mistakes today, you can learn step by step how to be more emotionally intelligent. So self-awareness is key, huge and important. And I'm going to talk more about the state of awareness very shortly. The next component of is self-regulation. And I'm going to give the definition that she put, and then I'll talk more about how I use that in the work that I do with people, and more about it. So self-regulation is the capacity to manage one's behavior in various environments. And one is managing themselves well when they avoid being overtaken by emotion and making poor choices. So simply put, when you are able to self-regulate, you basically have the coping skills of emotions. And you know that there's something that you need to do to take an action to put your emotions, to be able to calm yourself down or shift what you're feeling into a higher feeling state. For example, like when you are feeling fear, very common right now, a lot of anxiety and depression have gone up, up, up. The numbers have gone up since COVID. And being able to shift from that anxious state, from the depressed state, from the fear state, or a lot of times you may feel angry and you may not know what to do with that anger, or perhaps you even feel shut down where you're numb and not feeling anything. So all of those are really important to have that self-awareness, the first key, and then to learn how to regulate, to learn how to deal with your emotions so that you are functioning in healthy, appropriate ways. Really important is learning those coping skills for self-regulation when it comes to your emotions. And then the next part that she talked about, and this is in addition, she added, I really like this one, all about empathy. And the way she defines empathy is the ability to value and understand the experiences of another. One is empathetic when they can appreciate the perspective of others, even when differing from one's own choice. So really, empathy is being able to feel your feelings. And then what happens is, now this is really key with empathy, is because you are tuning into other people's feelings. You can tune into what they're feeling, what they're sensing, and be able to have empathy and compassion for them. Now, this empathy was an important skill that I learned as I went to social work school. That's one of the skills that you learn. It's really important to have empathy in order to work with other people. But in order to have healthy relationships, whether you're a clinician or a professional, you need to have empathy, to understand, and to, like you heard the phrase, walk in another person's shoes or moccasins. It's learning to have that empathetic sense so that you can understand them. And I want to welcome all of you in the Good Morning Alley. Welcome. And so empathy is really crucial in having those emotional skills. Emotional intelligence, it's really important. Now, the next topic that she talks about is decision making. And the way she defines decision making is the capacity to identify and make responsible choices. Good decision making involves taking action and understanding and accepting the outcome. And good morning, Janelle. Welcome. Wise Healings. So when you are making responsible choices and the capacity to do decision making. Now, I am adding another piece to decision making. And this is more than emotional intelligence 101. I'm going to the 2.0 version. And you're in on it. Welcome to 2.0. We just skipped over. And really, to me, decision making is a process that when you have the information that you need, or you know that you need to gather the information in order to make appropriate, healthy decisions, you want to be able to make responsible choices, and you're being able to identify them. And what happens to me, the best decision making comes from your intuition. When you are really tuning into your intuition and you have the information and you have the alignment of your head and your heart, and there is alignment, body, mind, emotions, spirit, those are going to be the highest decisions that you can make. So I'm upping what they said here in this article. So again, emotional intelligence 2.0 or 2.2 or whatever you want to call it. That's just a little piece. And I can talk more about it. If you have any questions, let me know. And then the final piece that Aria talks about is the social skills. It means that you are required to build and maintain healthy connections with others. One is socially apt when they have the understanding of what it takes to create bonds with others and preserve them. So having social skills is really crucial in emotional intelligence. But what's really important, in order to have those social skills, you need to have that self-awareness, and you need to be dealing with your emotions and being able to deal with them and work with them so that you can then take healthy actions in your relationships. And I'm going to cite examples. So I just wanted to give the overview of the emotional intelligence. And now I'm going to jump into the 3 principles that I've created around emotional intelligence 101. And the first principle is I call it my 3 A's. And I've talked about this before, but it's really important. And the 3 A's are awareness, acknowledgement, and acceptance. And so when you're dealing with your emotions, and just like the first principle or the first idea that the article that I quoted, the blog I quoted, was self-awareness. That's key. Again, you cannot change anything that you're not aware of. Change happens when you become aware of what's going on. So I'm going to give my Psych 101. Yes, I know it feels like you're in college now, but I'm really wanting, I love teaching and I want to support you in really getting the whole concept and knowing and understanding it. So Psych 101, first you have your conscious mind. And your conscious mind is you tuning into me and making the conscious decision that you've decided to tune in. And I really want to say thank you. Thank you for being here live. Thank you for tuning in at a later date, whether you're viewing it or listening. I really want to say thank you for joining and making the conscious decision to do this. So your conscious is the powerful part of you that makes the decisions in a very conscious way. However, the idea is you have to learn what's going on in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind, and the statistic is pretty scary. Because when I heard this, I was like, oh my God, it's 95. And I've actually read places where they actually went up to 98%. But most of the research, a lot of research shows 95% of our behaviors, our emotions, our thoughts are in the subconscious mind below our conscious awareness. So what happens, what that means is that when you have an emotion, you instinctively go into the reaction unless you bring in that conscious mind and say, no, I choose to respond. So the way that I distinguish it is your subconscious mind is the reactive mind. It's the part of you that has picked up all the limiting beliefs and unhealthy, not unhealthy, but emotions that need to be healed, like fear, anger, grief, shame, shame and guilt. And those emotions need to be healed in order to have more of that emotional intelligence and to function better in relationships. Because this is really about having an inspired and empowered life, and relationships are key. The relationship to yourself and the relationship with others. And in order to have healthy relationships, you need to have good emotional intelligence. And I'm just going to take a drink of water. Allergies are not in allergy land. So, awareness, it's really important. So when you have, from the moment you were conceived to present time, everything has been recorded in your subconscious mind. And all those emotions that need to be healed are there in your subconscious mind. So an example of what happens is, let's say you're talking to someone that you really love a lot, but they can push your buttons, and you're talking to them and they say something in a certain tone of voice. And all of a sudden you get really angry at them and you're reacting. That reaction is coming from your subconscious mind. The self-awareness is, oh, I'm really angry at this person right now. And learning, making the conscious choice to hold back the reaction so that you don't say or do something that you will later regret. That's emotional intelligence. And sometimes you may need to excuse yourself. Like when I'm working with couples, or I'm working with somebody who they're a reactor and they will go into reaction pretty quickly. And what I say to them is, take a breath. And you can tell the other person, let's say you can tell the other person, I need to leave. Now, if both of you are in reacting mode, then you definitely need to take a time out where you separate yourself from the other person, because what can happen is, if you don't, the things can escalate and you will get into fights or unpleasant situations when you're in the reactive mode. And that's why it's so important to have that emotional intelligence. And so happy that when you delay that reaction, you will be happier because you will save your relationships. Really important in emotional intelligence. And welcome, Marie. Good morning, beautiful. Inspirational Nanci. So sorry. Couldn't get in before. Welcome. Glad to have you all joining me today in the chat. So that's really important for that emotional intelligence. And it's learning to go from the reactive phase to the response. That's where the response is in your conscious mind. And it's learning to make the conscious choice. And let me tell you something. It sounds easy, and it's not as easy as it sounds. It takes practice and it's process, meaning over time, as you heal yourself, as you grow, as you transform, you can do it better and better and better. So now, with awareness, now here's the thing, you need to have the awareness. You need to have, if you're not aware that you're in reacting mode, then you're not going to be able to change it. And somebody who has emotional intelligence is somebody who's sensitive to another person's feelings. That's the empathy piece. And if you're an unaware person, like an unaware person will just react. Maybe they'll scream, they'll yell, they don't care what other people think or say or feel, and they're not being very conscious, and they're not having emotional intelligence. And that's not who you want to be, because you're joining this show, whether you're listening live or another time, you're joining it because that's who you want to be, is someone with emotional intelligence. You want to make a difference for yourself, your loved ones, the people in your life. All of that is crucial and important. And that's emotional intelligence is all about that. And so having the awareness is really crucial for that, as I said before. Now, acknowledgement is the second A. And we need to acknowledge our feelings, our emotions. If we don't acknowledge our feelings and emotions, then we're not really able to have that emotional intelligence. First, you have to become aware that there's something going on. And then you have the acknowledgement of a feeling that may be surfacing, or asking yourself, like if you had a reaction to your friend who had that certain tone of voice, or your partner that has that certain tone of voice, and when you hear that tone of voice, you react in anger. And so it's understanding, why are you reacting in anger? What is really going on for you? And so it's learning and acknowledging, oh, I'm reacting in anger. I need to understand, what am I really reacting to? And what happens is the people in your life, this is a really big one. The people in your life are triggering old memories, emotions, feelings and emotions, and limiting beliefs from your childhood, usually your childhood. I'm going to keep it in this lifetime for today. And what happens is, so let's say, let's give names to these people. Let's say Joy was talking to Alan, and Joy was just talking, and then Alan said something, and he had a certain tone of voice. And Alan, he didn't realize that he did or said anything. And he may have been doing it intentionally. For the sake of this example, let's say he was. Let's say, because I'm going to be teaching you about the emotional intelligence. So Alan says something in this certain tone of voice to Joy. And Alan says, he says something nasty. And what's really going on for Alan is that he's angry at Joy about something else, but he doesn't express it. And Joy feels that anger, and she reacts in anger because now she's getting angry because that tone of voice for Joy reminds her of her father. Her father, who was very stern, very strict. Sometimes he would be really angry and hurtful and sarcastic. And sarcasm is sarcasm. People say, oh, I'm only joking. But I'm going to tell you, sarcasm is anger. It's anger being acted out. So what Alan was really doing was he was acting out his anger in, let's say, a sarcastic joke, and Joy felt it, felt the anger, and then she got angry back. Now, the healthy thing to do would be Joy, because she's emotionally intelligent, what she does is she becomes aware. Oh, I'm angry. I'm really reacting to Alan right now. So what she says, I'm not going to react. I'm going to choose. She's being very conscious. I'm going to choose to not say anything until I understand what's going on for me, why I'm reacting to him this way. And then she processes, and she realizes that the anger is coming from when she was a kid. Her father was stern, and he would be sarcastic, and he would say mean comments and then only say he was joking, but he was really acting out his anger. And that's what Alan does. And so it really triggered Joy. And Joy had the awareness. She was able to acknowledge her feeling. She came to an acceptance. And then, being a healthy person, because she's learned how to have emotional intelligence, she decided to have a healthy conversation with Alan. And she made it a time where both of them were available to speak. And she said, Alan, when you said that comment, I got really hurt, and it really triggered me. And now, because they were really close and she wanted to have a more intimate relationship with Alan, she said, it really triggered my issues, my pain from my childhood with my father. And I got really upset. And as Joy was communicating with Alan, Alan started thinking about what he was doing. And because Alan also is aware and wants to work on himself, he became aware that he was really acting out some anger, something else that was coming up for him. And he apologized to Joy and said, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. And they were able to, what happens when you speak your truth in healthy, appropriate ways and you come back together, relationships get stronger. They get more intimate and closer. And that is emotional intelligence. So if anybody has any questions about anything I just said, let me know. And or if you like to share any ideas or anything, let me know. So the first concept is really asking yourself, is to really become aware when you've reacted or when you're about to react. See, that's like taking it to another level. When you've reacted, it's being able to apologize. It's being able to understand what was going on for you, why you were doing what you were doing, and then taking healthy, appropriate actions. And then being able to respond in healthy ways before you react is really where you want to get to. Because both of those can change your relationships. So the second part of emotional intelligence is being able to clear your energy. Now, here's the thing. And I know I've said this before on other shows, but this is really key and really crucial, is being able to clear daily and clear on the deeper levels. So you want to start the day in a positive way. So I'm going to ask all of you that are in the chat room, how do you start your day in a positive way? Like, what are the things that you do that you know help you so that you can have more emotional intelligence throughout the day? Because that's really what this is about. When you clear your energy and you're starting the day in a positive way. So some of the ways that you want to clear on a daily basis is you may start the day with meditation. You may start the day with exercise. I have a lot of clients that like to exercise. Sometimes you may want to exercise before you meditate. You can journal, starting with journaling, the day with journaling, and then maybe even going to meditation. Because what I will tell you is that if your mind is going and it's going really fast, what happens is you need to find a way to calm your mind down so that you can get at what's going on. What are you feeling? Because very often underneath the active mind is our feelings. Our feelings. And we have Marie. Marie says, my daily prayer of gratitude when my feet hit the floor, actually before I get out of bed. I love that, Marie. That is great. So having gratitude, really allowing yourself to have gratitude for all that you have, all that you are, and even gratitude for the day ahead, just being grateful. So gratitude is a wonderful way to start the day. And so starting the day, and again, like I said, you can prayer, meditation, exercise. Now, here's the thing. You want to get to the deeper levels too. The reason why Joy was able to be as healthy as she was is she did a lot of work. We worked a lot on helping her to be healthier and helping her to have that awareness so then she can communicate in healthy ways. But that requires the deeper level healing. And that requires being able to clear out the childhood wounds. Inside each one of us is this little girl or little boy that really needs to be healed. And every single one of us need to connect. If the more that you can learn to connect with that child inside of you, the more that you can change your life. And I watch it in my own life, and I watch it with clients. A client will come in. Let's take Jane, for example. Jane came in and she was feeling anxious and irritated and agitated. And so we worked and we talked and she processed, and I had her connecting with little Jane. And when she connected with little Jane, I had her loving her and holding her and just really giving her that love that little girl really needed. And what happened is that she was able to really shift and heal on a very deep core level. And so that made her, just raised her emotional intelligence, so that when something happens the way that she reacted before, she'll have more awareness the next time. There's the word, awareness. And we have wise healings. I go to my grid that I have set up and do the affirmation that I coined for that grid. Then I fan the grid's energy onto myself. Feels good. Okay, so thank you. And so Wise Healings created her own system, and she calls it a grid. So it's really about finding the ways that work for you, the deeper healing. So doing inner child work, I do hypnosis or emotional freedom technique, EFT, the emotion code. All of those are tools to help you become more emotionally healthy. And as you heal, you feel more. And I will tell you, as you feel, you will heal. And all of that is part of emotional intelligence. And just to bottom line it for all of you, emotional intelligence is key to an inspired and empowered life, because it's key when you're talking about the relationship with yourself and with others. Because how can you have an inspired and empowered life without yourself or others? You can't. And having those close connections and being able to sustain those close connections through the years is life-changing. And we need healthy relationships to have our best life. We are not in this alone. And the more that you can really heal yourself and heal your relationships, the better life you'll have. Marie says, really need to change my EI and be aware and practice this with one particular individual in my life who triggers me every time, even when I know it will happen. Hoy vey! I love it. So thank you, Marie. So that is really true. Like, there are going to be certain people in your life that are going to trigger you more. Like, before you see them, you're like, okay, I better. What happens is, very often, is we have a guard up. Because if you don't feel safe with someone, and I'm quoting safe, feeling that place where you can just be you and feel comfortable. There are certain people that it doesn't feel totally safe to be you, because you don't know like what they're going to say. It's like walking on eggshells. Sometimes there are people in our lives, we have relationships where I'm using these terms, but I believe all of you, when you're walking on eggshells and you feel like you have to be really careful of what you say or what you do, because you'll trigger them and they'll react, and they don't have emotional intelligence, and they don't really care, or maybe they do care, but they haven't developed it yet. So the more aware you can be, and I just want you to know, and some of you may be happy about this, some of you may not, but what happens is the responsibility of having a healthier relationship lies in the person who is more emotionally intelligent. Sorry. But that's positive, because that means that you can help the other person. You can be a role model, and you can make the choices for yourself. And you can only make choices for yourself. You can't make it for somebody else. And learning, being aware and being able to make those healthy choices that will take care of you, like maybe not reacting. And I'll give you another example. Tara was working with me, and when she came in, she and her husband would have blowouts. They would have blowout fights, and it would escalate. And as we started to work on herself and her self-awareness and what she was doing, she started having more awareness of what was being triggered. And let's say we'll call her husband Ted. So what happened was, over time, Tara became more able to speak in healthier ways and communicate her feelings in a healthy way. I feel ... when you. And you have to be careful not to use somebody. So it's a very different energy, what I'm talking about. And I'm going to talk about it even more next week. But I want to, so what Tara ended up doing was, she ended up really being able to communicate to Ted in healthier ways. And you know what? Ted has responded. And every time Tara was able to communicate to Ted in a healthy way, instead of reacting to him, he heard her, and they worked together. They problem solved. They resolved their conflict. And now their relationship is better than ever, and more intimate and closer. And that's what happens when you have emotional intelligence and you use it to transform your relationships. So we're going to continue emotional intelligence next week. So just to sum up what I talked about today. So the 5 principles, the 5 pieces, I'm going to separate that out. The 5 pieces from the article that I talked about by Aria Palmer is the self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, good decision-making, and social skills. So those are the 5 pieces of good emotional intelligence. And then the first principle that I talked about today are the 3 A's. And those 3 A's, the 3 principles of emotional awareness, the first one is the 3 A's. And that is the awareness. Again, self-awareness, that is key, crucial. So you need to have the awareness of what's happening, being present and being aware that you are reacting to someone in an unhealthy emotional way. Or it could be an event. It could be something that's happening in your life. And so you want to learn the skills of self-regulation. And I can talk more about that next week as well. And then you have the second principle that I talked about, which was the clearing. And the clearing is all about clearing yourself for the day ahead and clearing yourself on the deeper levels. And so all of that is crucial and key to having good emotional intelligence. And we will discover the third key next week. So join me next week for Emotional Intelligence 101, Part 2. And we are live Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on w4wn.com and talk4tv.com. You can find past shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, and Apple, the podcast. You can find them. And you can also go to inspiredandempoweredliving.com /meditation for my intuitive decision-making meditation. Yes, inspiredandempoweredliving.com /meditation. And I wish you all an inspired and empowered day and an inspired and empowered week. Have a great one, everybody. Goodbye for now.